And anything to drink.
But they're gonna make it.
No, I think they're just getting ready.
I think not. I don't know who they are.
I think they asked.
Plastic house.
You're trying to advertise that, but you would have wanted to hear.
Here on Lures.
Exactly.
Make some candidates. All these people got letters, that's why I asked. Not all, I think there was some. Hey, I'm just asking.
I know that.
You're running the meeting, not me.
No, I'm not.
They are.
I'm not. I'm not.
Hot table.
That's that old house that was daycare for about a week. Seems like it's pretty house with like two front, it's the house with two front doors. Yeah. To ask, you don't want to know. They have 5 fucking inches, so you can make it daycare. And then they made it daycare. I don't want to buy that. Oh, hey.
I don't know who either of those. Automatically.
That's what we were saying, we're like, we'll stop complaining. I don't know, let it debate. Yeah. You get some money, you got half an acre, so you go buy you 20 acres.
Those are the only.
That's why it's like, it's like.
On the main bill.
Really half an acre, because it's all right away to the city owns. You only got a half an acre, Bill. You can't like add on to it or do anything, it's all utility. Put it in time.
It's a greedy.
I just.
All right, let's go ahead and get started this evening with the City of Centerton Planning Commission, April 4th, 2023, with a roll call.
Jeff Safar,
Here.
Jody Engel,
Here.
Devin Murphy, Greg Langford, Jerry Harris, John Sessoms,
Here.
Ben Lewis, Tony Davis, Brandon Swoboda.
All right, first thing on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from our planning meeting of 3/21/2023.
Motion to approve the minutes from 3/21/23.
Ben, second.
Motion is second. Is anyone opposed? All right, next on the agenda is the ratification of the admin approvals. There are two. One is a home-based occupation, a bakery. The second is an adjustment to some white labels on Timber Ridge Phase 2. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? Anything from staff on those?
Label change was just something got labeled the wrong lot number when they printed it.
If there's no questions, then I would entertain a motion to approve the admin approvals.
Motion to approve the ratification of admin approvals.
Tony, a second.
Motion is second. Is anyone opposed? All right, no old business this evening. On our new business, we have 3 public hearings. The first 2 public hearings are on the same piece of property. But my understanding is these will ultimately be tabled this evening due to some notification issues. But the first one is a rezone 2302 Victoria Peak. It is Main Street mixed use. They're requesting a rezone from A1 to C3 and RTH MF12. The address is 974 Main Street. It's 9.83 acres. And the proposed split is 1.99 C3 and 7.84 of the RTH MF12. Is the applicant here to give us an overview?
Ben Koletka from CEI Engineering to represent the applicant. So that is correct. It's about 9.8 acres fronting Main Street. The intent is the front piece of it closer to Main Street would be rezoned to 3, which fits the recent comprehensive plan. And then the areas behind the Main Street commercial frontage would be the RTH. Well, I would like to note the site has several constraints, one of which is the 100-foot transmission line easement that goes through the site. So that limits area that can be built. That area is significant where it cuts through the site. It's about an acre and a half of the 9.8 acres that is non-buildable to that transmission line easement. And the rezone does fit what's called for the commercial frontage and then the strategic density along Main Street in the conference. I'm happy to answer any of the questions.
Shep? Want to give us a staff overview?
You want me to go through the whole report?
Let's go through. Yeah, let's hit the high level, because I think it'll be important for folks in the room to understand.
Okay, so they are wanting to rezone from A1 to RTH 12 and C3. There are currently existing structures on the parcel. As Chad mentioned, there is a 100-foot electrical easement running diagonally through the property, limiting its use. As mentioned, the public notice requirements weren't met. A few of the notices didn't go out. So ultimately, staff is requesting that the project be tabled to the April 18th meeting. In terms of street, it does front Main Street, which is designated a major arterial boulevard with 90-foot of right-of-way on the master street plan. And that typical street section also includes a 10-foot trail on both sides. For utilities, sanitary water and sanitary sewer are available along Main Street. For the adoptive land use plan, this area is designated as commercial and low density residential. This area is described as including larger neighborhood commercial development, which due to its size has the ability to serve the entire northern half of the city rather than just adjacent residences. Capacity and scale necessitate stronger design standards to ensure compatibility with neighborhood residential. Based on the comprehensive plan, the rezone request for neighborhood commercial is consistent. And on the comprehensive plan, this area behind the commercial is designated as low medium density residential, which is 3 to 7 units per acre, to accommodate both attached and detached housing units. This will help maintain the desired characteristics of the existing single-family neighborhoods while providing slightly higher density. Based on the comprehensive plan, the rezone request for RTH MF12, which is up to 12 units per acre, may be consistent. In terms of surrounding zoning and uses, the parcel is abutting Terra Knolls, which is zoned R2, which is medium density with 2.6 units per acre. It's also adjacent to Lanebridge subdivision, which is zoned R2 medium density with 3.2 units per acre, and Oak Ridge subdivision, which is also zoned R2 medium density with 3 units per acre. And then in terms of commercial, there's the proposed Come and Go directly to the west, which has been zoned C3 with an approved conditional use, and with the Legacy Sports Academy, zone C3. Based on the surrounding zoning, the request for C3 neighborhood commercial is compatible. And then based on those surrounding zonings, the RTH MF12 might be compatible. I listed several items from the comprehensive plan alignment that are consistent or not consistent with the goals, including considering neighborhood scale local serving commercial development as key intersections adjacent to low medium density residential neighborhoods to help improve direct access to goods and services. Focus short-term investment on infill to avoid significant investment in capital improved in greenfield areas. There are a lot of items. I don't know if you guys want me to read them all.
I think we're okay with it, but thank you. Did you confirm is there sewer on that side of the road to the house or to the property?
There is not. The intended sewer is to the east. Yeah.
So we should correct that documentation.
Is that, you said that's R2, the behind the eastern part of the property is,
Yeah, directly.
comp plan is R2? What?
Low medium density.
Okay.
Any other questions before we open it up to the public? With that, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
A motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second to open the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? All right, we're going to open up to the public. And in order to address the commission, we ask that you come to the podium. We ask that you state your name, your address, and then it's customary for a 3-minute conversation. Whether you have a question, a comment, in regards to the rezone request before us. So if you have an interest in addressing us, you come to the podium.
Hey, good evening. I've never been here before, so I'm a little nervous, but I'm Jean James. I live at 102 Skinner Street, which is directly across Main Street from the proposed property. The traffic on Main Street is pretty thick as it is right now. I cannot imagine adding this kind of development that they're proposing with the traffic that there is in the morning, especially and in the afternoons with the school traffic. With that light, from the light at Seba, the traffic, and so I'm on, you've got Seba, there's an empty lot, there's Haas, and then Skinner, so I'm there. And the traffic will back up to my house as it is. And to have this kind of traffic adding to that, I just don't think it's feasible. There's no sidewalks in there. You can't walk across Main Street as it is. They did add sidewalks when they put the light in at Seba. They put sidewalks from Haas to Seba, but from Skinner on down. So that's a lane bridge subdivision. So there are no sidewalks you can't cross Main Street because of the rate of traffic as it is. And so I just think that the amount of traffic that this would propose would just be too much for that area. It's all residential houses. It's all residential houses too, and so to put, if I understand correct, the C3 would be like that's convenience store, gas station. Am I understanding that correct?
There's a whole long list.
So it's not just like apartments or duplexes or stuff. We're talking commercial.
Correct, neighborhood commercial. So the intent of the neighborhood commercial is to service areas of the city that, so that you don't have to drive from where you live to, let's say, the neighborhood market. There may be a smaller store there that you might be able to use. So think about neighborhood commercial
The
type
Casey's at
conveniences.
Street.
Correct. Okay, but think about that from a neighborhood commercial perspective.
It's just, it is all residential houses in there. There's the apartments at the end of Main Street, but just think to put commercial in that residential neighborhood is going to affect the feel of the neighborhood because it is houses in residential. To add a commercial into that is going to change the whole dynamic of living in a residential neighborhood. But my biggest concern really is the traffic, the amount of it that it is right now. I don't think can keep up with the infrastructure as it is. And to add this to it is just, I don't think it's wise. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Cindy Farnsworth. I live on 113 Skinner Street. And Skinner Street is only way out is going to Main Street. That's the only way out, the only way in. The solution to the problem that you guys may have is if you build this, whatever it is, you're going to build the infrastructure and the residential area and have all of the traffic go into another neighborhood instead of off of Main Street. So if you have like a neighborhood and you just seal off the Main Street and have all the traffic going somewhere else, reroute it off of Main Street, that might help the solution to taking the traffic off of Main Street. But my main concern is you guys are building, and nothing is being done with the streets. The streets need to be done first before any kind of residential building needs to be put on. I mean, I don't understand why we can't understand that. Main Street is already overpacked with cars. You have to pack a lunch in order to get out. You have to stay there forever and ever before the traffic, is done, before you can get out. But just so you know, Oak Ridge and Skinner and Haas, their only outlet is on Main Street. The only other solution, there's a lot on Maple that maybe it could be opened up to SEBA. And that would be a secondary outlet for that neighborhood. But I think just trying to get out is a nightmare. So unless you guys live there, you don't understand that. But we do. I mean, we have to get places. So, you know, we have to go get ready 30 minutes before just so that we can wait to get off on Main Street. So this is going to add to it.
It's not feasible.
I mean, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the commission?
Good evening. I'm Chris Mooney, and I own 1325 North Main Street.
So what was your name again? Sorry.
Chris Mooney. Mine's more of a question because the owner of the lots north of us, 2 5-acre lots, he sold one of them, but he came before the commission several times with a proposal to do a mixture of residential and commercial, fairly similar to this, and was turned down. Correct. And so I'm just more interested in, does that have an implication for this proposal or not? It is my question.
I had a question from the staff before I can truly answer that. So we'll get to that after we finish all the
Well,
questions.
I'm just bringing that up because it seems to be somewhat similar, and I know he's not very happy about your previous decisions.
Hi, good evening. My name is Blake Hill. I live at 810 North Main Street, property adjacent to the south. Similar to the folks that have already spoken, have concerns around the traffic. I have a little bit more concerns, obviously, because we butt up and there is a flood control problem. We understand where that flood water drains from the north end of the city, comes down along that road. But like some of the rains we've had the last couple of weeks, we will get a wet stream coming through our bottom section of that property. And it's coming in from that north side. So I have concerns about the way that property will be graded, how it will be prepped. And it does show a detention pond, but it shows in the back in the southeast corner, which is, unless that property is really regraded, is up on the hill from that section. So there's concerns that I have just because of the water that comes down, for example. And there's also, unfortunately, there's wildlife there. I have dogs and we've had encounters with possums, skunks, whatever lives there, whatever's there, when we start moving dirt, it's going to go somewhere. So this is a general call out. So again, very interested in understanding what the intention is with commercial property on the front end. I get the call outs to say, hey, here's where you may have more conveniences. We may have different restaurants, may have more options. What is the focus with what y'all said? Here's what we want to develop Main Street to be. How does that line up? It sounds like it's in line with what's the rules are today, but I want to make sure we're calling that out and saying, again, with 48 homes, or townhomes, whatever you want to say, with 2+ bodies, that's 96 people, kids, whatever, vehicles, here's what all to encounter. So that's my call outs and concerns tonight as we've gone through that. Thank you, folks.
Cindy Zoomstein, 1092 Main Street. This is for rezoning, correct? The main thing I'm opposing is the higher density residential. That's putting 48, possibly 90 more vehicles dumping into Main Street in the mornings and at peak hours throughout the day. If it was more of a lower density, I understand you can't stop people from building. So if we can be maybe a lower density would help in this situation, in my opinion.
Hello, I'm Connie Selden, and I'm probably the only one here says that I'm for it, but I want to tell you, I live on 111 Verona Way. which is actually the corner lot on Verona between that and Ramona. And it's really kind of like a cul-de-sac and I'm at an angle. I go out most of the time because the main street is too crowded to get out and it's not safe to get in and out because where we're at, we have no stoplight or anything. It is down by where it goes to the school, but I go down to Sienna Drive and I drive down there and everything's 20 miles an hour there, which is fine because it is a residential area. But it does get you off of Main Street and I almost always go to town that way. Either go all the way down Verona till I hit down there where McKissick Park is, or I go all the way down and go where I come in next to or go get my nails done. But anyhow, I just want to say I'm for multiple family housing. I worked for the city for 18 years, not this city, but the city of Ty, Texas. And I understand planning and zoning, and I understand you've got to have different ones, but I do think I worked with the Department of Transportation in the state of Texas. And I do know that you've got to get somebody from this city to sit on that board also to try to help get that road fixed and get it done right. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the commission?
One more question. I have a question. Cindy Farnsworth. Are we ever gonna widen Main Street?
So
Needs to be reiterated that Main Street is a state highway.
Right.
And we don't, the city doesn't have.
You touch it? No.
So,
Exactly right.
but the mayor is working with the state. He's actually requested that they do some improvements to it. And I believe there's an agreement in place that if there are such things done, then the city would take it over. Now, does that happen tomorrow? Does it happen in 5 years? We don't know that, but those discussions are actually in place right now.
Yeah, because I know it's an interstate, right?
I don't think it's an interstate. but it's-
Highway, the conjoined highway.
The highway, so the federal, it's federally owned, not
They don't.
you know.
The city can't do it, the state funding.
All right, thanks.
The city can make improvements to Main Street with the developments, but it does go through the highway department for approval of those of widening, any drainage, everything, anything that impacts Main Street will go before the highway department. But it can be improved. That is our ultimate intention is to definitely widen Main Street.
As of right now, they do have the final say so.
Right.
That's what,
Because they own it, yeah.
And there's nothing that's been proposed or approved on Main Street in terms of development that hasn't come with street improvement.
Say that again.
Other proposals and stuff that have been approved, and not this one. There's nothing on Main Street that we've approved that doesn't come with some kind of street improvement.
That has not come with street improvement, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so
Sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying.
Yeah, Chris Strait, 1410 Ocean Drive. So I don't post this, but I drive Main Street every day. To add, as others have said, more traffic onto the road. As it is right now, that road is failing. And I understand what you guys are saying, that there's process being done with the state. But I think before we keep just growing and growing, we need to get the infrastructure right. And that's working in conjunction with the state and getting more on board with it, because that is really the only major thoroughfare to get back to these areas is that road. I don't like taking 72, but we've seen plenty enough accidents on there. In the mornings when you're blinded by the sun, and after I drop my kids off at school, that's really the only road to take to get into Bentonville. You know, I chose to live in Centerton because yes, it is a growing community, but we are growing way too fast for our bridges, to be honest. You know, just as where I live, I'm kind of constrained with how the road is as well. It's not a state, it's a city one. So that is a different story in that, but in order to get anywhere, you have to take Main Street, and you can continue to add more 96 more vehicles to that road. No one's gonna get anywhere. You're gonna have more complaints about Santon as the city you don't want to live in because you can't get anywhere. Plus it's gonna push the growth somewhere else. So ultimately, yes, we want to see growth, but we are growing way too fast. And we need to like slow on that. So, thank you.
May I just add something to, please? I've heard a couple suggestions to maybe route
You were-
traffic.
Gene, correct?
Yes, I am.
Just making sure for the record. So
Jean DeShane, a couple suggestions were made to maybe route traffic through other neighborhoods and Sienna. They can't handle that kind of traffic coming through there either. I mean, if we're going to start routing traffic through these smaller neighborhoods with, 20-mile-an-hour speed limits and lots of family that were not meant to have this additional traffic flow through it, it's just gonna be a nightmare for, we're passing one problem off to another neighborhood that didn't sign up for that either. When they were created, they were not created to be a high density area. So I really think that's the value of viable solution to just route traffic through another unsuspecting neighborhood. The traffic on Main Street needs to be able to handle the kind of, I didn't even realize it was 48 structures we're talking about, the 90s, maybe 90 plus vehicles. In addition to what's already on Main Street, it can't handle it. It absolutely can't. So. Thank you.
anyone else wish to speak? This time, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Or was it just that,
Sorry, Jerry.
sorry, there were a few emails that we got from the public, also addressing concerns about traffic and infrastructure. One of them was from Riley and Krista Frakes, and there was another one from Silva.
And with Silva, I can't remember.
And they also had the same concerns about infrastructure and traffic. And then we received one that went to Jeff.
So Bob Anderson is forwarded as well. And I'll make sure that you guys get that one. He lives at Skinner Street, 124 Skinner.
With Robert Silva.
If I'm understanding this, if I'm looking at this correctly, the land use plan for this is different than the property that we looked at farther north. Is that correct?
So I do have a question about that, because the land use plan that I'm looking at that's supplied to the public, it doesn't look like that. What I'm looking at has low density.
It's just been overlaid. See, I think the property to the north, that entire parcel was planned for commercial. This one, I don't think the entire parcel was. That the difference.
So, but on the map that I'm looking at, the front part of Maine is commercial. I mean, it's there.
Yes.
That's the plan. But everything around it is low density.
Yeah, you just can't see it because brown is darker than yellow.
But this in the brown.
It's overlay. That's the proposed over the yellow. It's supposed to be.
Okay, that's the proposed over. Okay, thank you for clarifying. I was getting things on that.
We've had that discussion a couple times and it's hard to figure out how to get around it, but.
Okay, thank you.
So-
Thanks for clarifying.
To answer your question, that's the difference in the two pieces of property is the land use plan.
I'm not familiar with what he was referring to, though.
There's a parcel that's north that has been in a couple of times.
Crosstown?
You know where the
Next to the vineyard.
You know where the vineyard, the field of grapevines are at? The property just north of that.
Okay.
Has been in trying to do a mix instead of a commercial use. A complete 100% commercial use, I should say.
Okay.
And it was.
It was denied.
It was.
And for that question on the land use and the density, the comprehensive plan has that at low to medium density, 3 to 7 units per acre. And then the plan that we're looking at currently is about 6.5 units an acre. So it stays within that 3 to 7 range. And that's due to the commercial piece being split off, as well as the 100-foot transmission line easement and some of the other site.
Should you take the 100-foot transmission easement out of that calculation?
There's no building in that.
I understand, but it's a straight area to unit calculation. Did you take the area for the 100-foot easement out for that calculation?
It's applied to the whole 9.8 acres.
For this rezone, though, they are going to RTH MF 12, which allows up to 12 units.
Yeah, that's mine.
So we can't really consider what.
Can't look at the plan.
Yes, we.
Max is allowed.
Yes, they are coming in together, so.
Well,
When we look at it, we don't know that it's there. Because we may not approve the PUD. And you could table it that night. And after we approve the 12, and there is nothing that we can do. So we will consider it separate versus the with it. So that's what you have to understand. They're two separate line items for us. Okay. Any other questions before we table this?
I have a question about the property to the neighbor. Not C2 they were wanting?
One mixed.
It was just mixed use? Okay.
Plan called for the entire parcel to be commercial. They wanted to split the parcel into, I think one time MF and then another time was
Like a combination.
with storage. It was a whole different, it was several different issues, but they wanted to split that instead of, this already calls for a split.
And the use plan for that property that was denied was just single family? I mean,
It
was commercial as well.
They had a combination.
One was all residential, one was a split with commercial and residential, and the other one was for C2. Cause they wanted to put storage.
Well, that's what I was thinking. They wanted C2.
Those residential submissions were not single family.
Those were, well, thank you, started, but I know they came up when they went with the C2.
I thought they were both MF. We'll have to, I don't know.
I was thinking one.
Any,
Remember they were before. Thank you. Came up last time. they
Did we
were
close the
full.
public hearing?
yes.
Okay.
Oh,
No, she stopped.
That comment. Very didn't finish.
thank you.
Jerry first.
Jerry, does your motion still stand to close the public hearing?
Yes.
Does someone want a second?
John, a second.
Motion to close in a second. Is anyone opposed? Any additional questions before we?
It's. Knowing that we're tabling it, I don't know if this is the comment today or not, but there's noticing where it's not all C2 on the front of Main Street, the frontage of Main Street. It's worth the discussion today. Or should we table and clean that up?
I would say we would look at it later if that's the case. And there were reasons why we did that. It's probably a much bigger, longer discussion. So the questions that were asked this evening or the comments from the public will also be included in the next time that we entertain this, which I'm assuming it's on the next agenda. So our next agenda on the 18th is when we will reconsider the rezone with the understanding of the traffic discussion, sidewalks, address the 2 5-acre lots, drainage. That drainage has been there for about 20 years, but they can't make it worse than what it is today. Okay, so understand that. And that's about it.
One comment, land use.
So it's being tabled this evening because not all notifications made it out. And so because of that, it's been requested that we table this in case anyone else wants to address the commission next time. So that's the reason why.
Take your input.
Will it be a public hearing or was it?
We will open it up to the public, yes. We will, because their notifications will have said that it's open to the public, so we will do that. So with that, I would entertain a motion to table rezone 2302.
It's John, I motion to table rezone 2302 for next agenda.
Motion in a second. Is there anyone that's opposed? So we're gonna table the PUD as well.
Yes.
John,
It's also a public hearing, so. let's Open it up for that also.
All right, so the next agenda item is also public hearing. This is for the proposed planned new development that's on Main Street. The mixed use, again, is at 974 Main. The 9.83 acres, 1.99 C3. And 7.84 as RTH MF12. Do you guys want to give us an overview, Chad, of the PUD?
I'd like to give a brief overview of the plan.
For what you asked for.
It's very slow.
Trying to find a happy medium and it is not cooperating. Oh. No. I'm trying really hard for it, Jen. Right. Seriously?
169, 2 arrows, click on that.
Maybe, oh, no. Sheesh.
Made it. So a few things on the plan. So you can see Skinner to the left as well as Haas to the left on the west side of Main Street. We are proposing 2 points of access, which would be new street construction. You see those labeled with local street tags right there. So that would be 2 new streets to be constructed and include a loop drive through the development.
Zoom in a little bit, so it's a little easier to see.
The red piece that you see, that is the frontage on Main Street for the commercial piece that would be split out of the total acreage. The 100-foot transmission line easement, you see that making the diagonal line through the site, so that precludes any construction of buildings within that. We can have horizontal service, but no buildings allowed in that 100-foot transmission line. The townhomes will face the public streets, with the exception of the townhomes in the center that you see. So that would be more of an alley type construction, with an alley that connects to the commercial property in front. The site does drain towards the southeast, where you see that detention pond. This would require regrading to get the streets and the drainage to work. Sewer access, we're looking to the east to tie into Terra Knowles. And with this general development, we are also keeping the existing structure that you see on the south side of the commercial property, so that remains in place. And it will be hopefully rezoned the commercial zoning. And let's see, lastly, the street trees, the vegetated buffers that you see separating the commercial from the residential, and then also the buffers to the adjoining properties for having a vegetation screen there. Then the overall density here that we're showing for the townhomes is about 6 units an acre. We do have open space, which is primarily concentrated around the overhead transmission line easement. We're currently meeting the 15% open space. And the intent is to dedicate that larger parcel of open space towards the city park, but that dedication would happen in a later phase as part of the preliminary plan. But I believe that's any questions?
Well, not totally on Main Street, are y'all dedicating right way, or are you creating any kind of turn lane? Property? I'm not seeing anything on the plan.
Yeah, so Main Street, we are dedicating 45 feet of right of way for that 90-foot cross section. Since that is under RDOT jurisdiction, we are not showing the street improvements there for now. We are showing the street trees there, but that expansion would require more coordination with RDOT.
And then my other question is, so your proposal is to actually not do commercial on the south part of the lots, but to have townhomes there instead? Which defeats the purpose of us having neighborhood commercial up and down this section of Main Street. Is that what you're proposing?
I'm not sure I understand the question. So
where these townhomes are at. on
South
the
side.
South side of the.
South lane.
So if you look at our land use plan, understand today there are larger parcels of 5 acres and 5 acre, I'm sorry, 2.5 acre, 3.5 acres and 3.5 acres. That today have residents on them. One is Blake's, okay, but understand that the land use plan calls for a commercial, neighborhood commercial along this entire area. And so with the intent that they would be able to access each other because they're commercial, so that we can control traffic better. And if your proposal has townhomes or residential there, then it defeats our purpose to have the access across, across all the commercial there. Does that make sense?
it does, I understand. So our aim is to have the townhomes there, particularly with all of the non-buildable area, with the transmission line easement, and then the right-of-way dedication along Main Street, which is another 0.5 acre of dedication. And then the commercial lot depth, we think is sufficient for a commercial lot, but you're correct, we are trying to keep the townhomes to the south of that commercial lot.
Any other questions before we open it up to staff?
You hearing this one too, even though the other one got tabled?
You want to give us a staff overview? Similar to the last one, yes. Although we have to read all of number 5. We don't need to read each line on here.
Okay, so there is the concurrent rezone that you guys just heard. They are requesting to develop a mixed-use development, proposing 48 single-family attached townhouses with 1.99 acres of commercial space. There is Centerton water available along Main Street, and we determined that they're proposing a connection to Terra Knolls for the sanitary sewer. Okay, the intent of this, to develop this, is that they'll develop the townhomes and have them all on individual lots, and then the commercial pieces will be sold and developed separately at a different time, so they're not being developed together. In terms of fire code, there will be firewalls between the units and it will be sprinkled. I'm just gonna hit the highlights. Number 5, what they're wanting variances from. For the minimum lot area per dwelling unit, instead of 3,000 square foot per dwelling unit, they want to do 2,550. And with that, instead of doing 30 feet, they want to do 25.5 feet of frontage per dwelling unit. And then they're asking for 10-foot internal side setbacks instead of 25 in most places. In terms of density, they are proposing 6.1 units per acre, and on the land use plan, this area calls for 3 to 7 units per acre. As a condition, staff recommends that we set that as a hard limit of 6.1 units per acre so that they can't go any higher. For accessory dwellings or accessory buildings, they should be required to meet underlying zoning requirements. Trash enclosures, they didn't have anything specific about trash enclosures for the commercial piece, but they said that dumpsters for the townhomes won't be, they're not anticipated, but they will be providing trash cans for individual units. For the open space, staff has been having a pretty intense discussion about what it means to have a mixed use development and what's an integrated design. So this proposes 15%, but after looking at what the intent of a PUD is, I don't think that it meets an integrated design, especially because they're selling those 2 commercial lots. They're not developing it together. They're not proposing the concept together. So we're thinking maybe 25% for the residential and 15% for the commercial, which is what our code is right now. There's just a spot in our code that's not very clear about mixed use. And then they gave us some examples of architectural treatments, but nothing specific for these townhomes. Final landscaping requirements will be determined with the preliminary plat. But I do want to note that because of that electrical easement, there are constraints for the landscaping. We do ask for a landscaping buffer between the commercial lot and the residential, which they are slightly showing. And then street trees, we can ask them to show street trees along Main Street, but because it's a dot road, there's a world where they say absolutely not, you're crazy, so. We have to keep that in mind. For PUD, our PUD code is not the best right now. It asks for 2 covered, 2 uncovered. They are giving 2 covered and 2 uncovered though, so that's good for this. For the commercial parking and access, we recommend only 1 direct access for the commercial lots off Main Street, and then we would like to see shared parking or parking on the sides instead of along the frontage of Main Street. And then we have the normal general conditions for terms of approval. They have to submit their large scale and preliminary plat requirements. Amendments will have to come through the planning commission. There's the construction timeline, permits, and then if any of the listed conditions or the conditions you guys settle on aren't met, the plans could be denied.
No question. What I understood you to say is that the commercial has not been identified, basically, so you know what may or may not happen to drive, what kind of traffic for that commercial entity.
Correct, but
So if, because one of my things would be a traffic study, right? So how can you get an accurate traffic study if you don't know what's?
it may be part of the PUD if it gets approved. Because we would have this plan as part of the PUD, if that makes sense. That's when a potential traffic study would come in. But my comment was, and what we feel on our commercial lots, when they're connecting, is to have that cross access so that we're not dumping 4, 5, 6 different, exits.
You have a shared access drive, right?
But the way it's proposed,
Way it's
there
here is
wouldn't be a
multiple.
shared access.
Yeah.
Because of the townhomes at the bottom. It doesn't give us that neighborhood commercial.
No, I'm with you on that one. I'm
Okay.
on board with you.
And even the proposed local streets, I mean, you've got. Some of us, they're stacked. If you look at, local street A, then the next one's at Haas, then. There's a lot of stuff coming into Main Street close together.
Exactly.
But again, it's a proposal. We're giving you guys feedback. All right. Let's go ahead and open up to the public. So I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
John, I motion a public hearing for PUD 2301.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Same as before for the public hearing. If you would like to speak, we encourage different comments. If there's something else we missed or didn't consider, please let us know.
Eugene DeShanes, 102 Skinner Street. Basically, my house is right where he has that. They have that driveway coming out of the property. That's my house right there. That, again, the traffic, and one of you had just said it, it's all dumping onto Main Street. That right now, Main Street is not working as it is. To add that much traffic is going to be a nightmare for the people, especially with the school. You have 2 schools that have to go in that way. There's just no way that's going to work. My other concern that I didn't share before is we don't know the commercial building that's going to go in there. I mean, if this gets approved, and it could be anything, what if it's something that goes in that does generate a lot more traffic, what like a convenience store or a fast food restaurant or something like that? I mean, traffic would just be even worse in just getting in and out the way it is. I don't think it's a viable option for Main Street. And something the gentleman said about the trees on the front in the right of way that is proposed, that they have to work with the state. Well, as far as I know, the state approved widening or doing something to that road 5 or 6 years ago, but nothing is still on the books. Nothing is going to be done. And so It was my understanding that they'll have to wait for the state for that. How long is that going to be? So that those trees in that right of way that they're showing, unless the state works with them, is not gonna happen. So then it's going to be an even bigger issue. Thank you, Jean DeShanes.
I just have a question. Cindy Farnsworth, 113 Skinner Street. So the building that's already there, what is going to be, what is that going to be?
We don't know, but it'll have to be commercial.
Like a house?
Today it is, but it's been operating as a commercial with a conditional use.
Okay,
So it's been a daycare that was conditionally approved on the north side of it.
okay. So the commercial part of that is that going to be the commercial part of it, or is it going to be further on down?
So it'll be both. So I can't tell the distances. How long is the total length on Main Street, you know?
I want to say it's 640 feet.
So there's 640 feet that we look at our land use plan should be neighborhood commercial. That's how we have it planned. They're probably proposing 450 or so. I can't, there's no numbers on here, but ballpark it, there's about 450 feet that they're proposing for commercial. And then some residential at the multifamily they're proposing on the south side of it.
So the residential is going to be in the back.
And on the side.
On the side, and commercial is gonna be in the front, and we don't know what the commercial is.
Correct.
Is it gonna be like a strip mall? Is it gonna be a?
What's the seat?
car wash?
West is for neighborhood commercial, which if you look at the list of what's available in neighborhood commercial, it's intended again for residents of an area to be able to go there and get what they need versus having to drive across town. So when we think about the way that the city was planned, knowing it was going to grow north, west, and those areas, this area on Main Street was intended to be neighborhood commercial for all those to come here versus having to go to Bentonville or even the neighborhood market or somewhere else. So that's the intent of neighborhood commercial, is to be able to service the residents that live near these areas.
Okay, so we're doing commercial there, and then across the street by Seba is gonna be a come and go.
We don't know that yet. We don't know that yet.
That's not.
That's the application. It's the application.
Okay.
It's also commercial way for further north than.
And north of that, north of Seba.
So let me ask you something. So when we're doing neighborhoods, we're throwing commercial buildings and all that stuff inside the neighborhood.
Near the neighborhood.
I mean, that just kind of doesn't make, it just kind of makes it kind of like a hodgepodge.
Not necessarily. If you go truly look at the whole planning picture, it doesn't really, it's not really hodgepodge.
It looks better on the whole thing.
It does.
It's like Main Street.
That just doesn't make sense to me.
It's like 102,
Well, you've got,
just like 102.
you've got neighborhoods behind KFC, behind, that's what it looks like. You've got commercial in front, neighborhoods behind it.
Yeah, the KFC's on like a main highway.
Just give me an example.
The main highway.
This is a
Main highway.
This is a main road. We may not consider it a main road, but it is a main thoroughfare from the north to the south right now.
It's Main Street.
Yeah, that's why it's called Main Street, right?
And if you look at the total picture, I mean, the intent is to go all the way south. So there's also kind of a new downtown area and things like that. So the entire Main Street as we know it, which changes names when it goes south, is designed to be a gathering / commercial, things like that, whenever the plan was put in place.
Our larger land use plan is there on the wall where you kind of see that cross section.
So do you think eventually we might be able to beautify this area?
That's our
Like, yeah, say Main Street nice.
That's the ultimate goal.
Thank you.
So back on the picture that was put in, is that red square, the commercial?
Yes. That was Gene. Sorry, we have to keep records.
So sorry.
I'm not gonna kick you out today, so we just need it for the records. We need to know, so.
Clarified some uses for C3, just so that everybody has maybe a little bit of an overview. It's intended for things like grocery stores, barber and beauty shops, laundromats, drugstores, taverns, professional offices and similar uses like that.
Now there's a whole overview.
If you want to know the entire list of uses, it is available on the
Long
website.
list, but it,
Website.
Yes.
Blake, right?
Yes, sir. Blake Hill, good evening, folks. Appreciate the time. Just the only thing I want to tag on, again, I know I live in the middle of Centerton, middle of Main Street. I have some concerns, obviously, with just general privacy with the townhomes that are kind of proposed and kind of the illustrations. There were 2 stories. And obviously they're on that property to the north of me, looking back into my property. We've obviously extended, put a chain link fence up because we have animal dogs. Again, we're just trying to make sure, voicing our opinion, say, hey, from the trees, from the setback, what materials they're going to have, just kind of cading off this section is the concerns that we have in addition to the previous items, especially around the water drainage, additional now concrete, asphalt. Instead of having some kind of absorption is going to get run off. So that's just the things I wanted to tag on for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Chris Mooney again, 1325 North Main Street. So y'all, I've been at a number of meetings now, and y'all seem to be very focused on sticking to the plan, right? And that's green and not red. On the bottom of the townhomes. So what's your logic going to be to deviate this particular time?
Jeff already brought that up, so.
Yeah, well, I'm bringing it up. I get to do that.
Well, no, he made that concern earlier. You didn't hear that. Yeah, I already mentioned it to them, but again, it's a concept tonight.
That's all.
It may not even make it this far. If we don't approve the rezoning, it may not make it here, but you're correct. In the fact that our plan says commercial.
Yes.
And so we clearly stated that to the developer. He knows it. It doesn't mean that it has to come back that way, but that's.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy Zimfeld, 1092 Main Street. Again, I want to. Main Street is very unique. I know y'all want it commercial, but we all moved there because of its quaintness. There's open space, there's green space. You can walk out and the neighbor is not right next to you. You can't reach out and touch your neighbor's house. There's a lot of open space, and that's what drew us all there. You put a high density townhome development there, it just ruins all of it. And not to mention the traffic again. The traffic is horrible there. We have to schedule doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, everything based on the traffic. We used to be the first ones there. Now we have to wait till mid-morning to go to appointments. That's, it just, the development, those townhouses, if we can go with a lower density housing back there, that it's just townhomes look ruins. And that's part of the master plan also, is to keep the charm of Centerton. This is not keeping the charm of Centerton, having rental properties there, most likely rental properties.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Not, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
John, I motion to close the public hearing for PUD 2301.
Second. Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? With that, I would entertain a motion to table.
And I also motion to table PUD 2301.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right. Thank you, guys. It will be reconsidered at the next meeting.
I had a question here. You asked, what does it mean to table?
Yes.
Wait, just later right here was asking, what does it mean to table?
So when we table it, it means it's postponed, that we won't take any action on it this evening. In this particular case, it's scheduled for the next meeting. The reason this was tabled was because not everybody got the proper notifications. And so the fair thing to do is to wait, because if they have questions or concerns like anybody else this evening, they should have a fair chance to speak. And so it was requested that we table it from the staff. And so that's what we did.
Notifications do you have?
Sorry.
And the notifications.
So there's a form letter that goes out.
It's certified mail that the applicant sends out.
That might be the problem. So,
You should have
I
gotten.
just saw the sign on the street.
so again,
300 feet of the property.
yeah, it's 300 feet. So if you're 301, then you wouldn't get one. But the reason we put the sign up as well, just in case you happen to be that 301, then you at least get a chance because you drive Main Street. So in this case, we're tabling. It is on the agenda for next meeting. If we don't consider it then it will move to a future agenda unless they decide not to do it.
So we went ahead and had the public hearing, so your comments will be recorded. Even at the next meeting.
Thanks, Rick. Will I ask when it gets voted then? Would that be like after the next meeting if you feel like everyone's had a chance to you vote?
If the notifications were received and we do consider it at the next meeting, then yes, we would most likely take a vote.
You would vote right then and there.
Correct. The only exception, I don't want to use the word only. One exception would be if the developer decides to pull it, then they do have the right to pull it or request us to table it again. If they felt as though they wanted to do that.
When you say pull it, like to withdraw the application. And then if they want to do it again, it has to go through the whole process again.
Yes. All right, next on the agenda this evening is also public hearing. This is for rezone 2303 Humble Growth Properties. The request is to rezone from A1 to C2. This is the southeast corner of 279 and Centerton Boulevard, 2.87 acres. The owner is Humble Growth. And is the applicant here to give us an overview?
Everybody, Joe Swearingen, the subject properties are at 1285 and 1277 West Centerton Boulevard. We're just doing a simple rezone. It's zoned A1 now. You know, these lots as two different lots, formerly different owners. We bought both of them, had it surveyed into one lot, and then after surveying it into one lot, we're coming forward to rezone it from A1 to C2.
There's a house there and there's
A house on each of the lots, the yellow house, when you go to the airport. And then right next to that is a little white house.
Thank you. Taylor, are you doing this one as well?
Okay, so the parcels are located on the northeast corner of West Centerton Boulevard, southeast corner of West Centerton Boulevard and North Vaughn Road. As mentioned, there are a few structures that currently exist on the property, including residential homes. It's the intent of the owner to sell the 2.84 acres of land after rezoning. They are requesting P2 highway commercial, and that district is intended for businesses which cater to highway traffic such as service stations, drive-in restaurants, motels, supermarkets, and similar businesses. The setbacks are as follows. The front is 50 feet from the planned right-of-way as shown on the master street plan. The rear setback is 25 feet. The street side setback and the side setback are 10 feet. This goes along Centerton Boulevard, which is designated as a major arterial boulevard. It's 100 feet of right-of-way. And then North Lawn Road is designated as a major collector, which is 80 feet of right-of-way. The road improvements and dedications of right-of-way will be determined with preliminary plans. For utilities, Centerton Water is available along Centerton Boulevard. There is sewer along the north side of Centerton Boulevard and along the east side of Vaughn Road. Whether they can connect to that or not will have to be determined in the capacity with sewer and Centerton utilities. For the adopted land use plan, these parcels are designated as commercial on the comprehensive land use plan and specifically located in the central corridor of Centerton Boulevard. For the comprehensive plan, local businesses and less intensive commercial uses should be prioritized. Mixed residential and commercial uses should be encouraged as part of the infill development to add density to the central corridor along the smaller scale business park uses. The rezone request for C2 is considered consistent with the land use plan's designation of commercial central corridor. Rezoning will allow the described infill and will serve to activate its intersection. In terms of surrounding zoning and existing uses, the parcel is surrounded by C2 to the east, north, and west. To the southwest is the Maddox, which is zoned R4 MF, their apartments. And to the southeast is Ridgewood subdivision, which is zoned R3 SF. Other developments in the area include the proposed Harps, which is zone C2, and it's located directly north. And then there's a Domino's proposed, which is zone C2 located to the east. To the south is R1. Based on the surrounding zonings, the zoning request for C2 is compatible. The property is abutting residential, so it will need to follow residential compatibility standards when it's developed. There are a number of items on the comprehensive plan that may or may not be consistent with this rezone. A few that I wanted to highlight to you guys is item 50, which is to develop a narrow strip of use on the east side of Bond Road to Centerton Boulevard to serve anticipated residential and business uses in the area due to the development of the new junior high. And then also establish the Highway 279 character area as Centerton's regional commercial hub. And then there was one more, item 62, to ensure the central corridor character area includes typical commercial uses found along an auto-oriented corridor. Encourage medium high density residential and commercial uses as part of an infill development to add density to the central corridor along with other small scale business park uses. I didn't receive any.
Thank you. All right, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing for rezone 2303.
I'll motion to open the public hearing.
It's Joey, a second. Motion is second. Is anyone opposed? We're now open to the public for anyone who wishes to speak. Again, this is rezone 2303. Rezone request from A1 to C2 at the southeast corner of 279 and Centerton Boulevard. Is there anyone that wishes to speak or have any comments or questions? Second call for anyone who wishes to speak. And third and final call for anyone who wishes to speak.
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to close in a second. Is anyone opposed? Any questions from any of the commissioners before we go through what we need to consider in the rezone? The first thing to consider is the rezoning consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, including the adopted land use plan, if not why. I believe that this is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Does anybody disagree with that? Is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones? And I do believe that it is compatible. Does anybody disagree with that? Would all the permitted uses in the new zone be compatible in this location and the surrounding areas? And again, I believe that the compatible uses or the uses would be compatible for this area. Does anybody disagree with that? Would the rezoning provide a benefit to this landowner but not be considered for other similar properties in this area? And I do not believe that this provides a benefit to one landowner. Does anybody disagree with that? And there was no public questions or comments, so no opposition from the public. Any additional questions or comments from any of the commissioners or staff? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion for rezone 2303 from A1 to C2.
Tony, I make a motion to rezone 23-03 from A1 to C2.
And I second.
Motion and a second. If you'll do a roll call vote for me, please.
Tony Davis. John Sessoms.
Yes.
Greg Langford.
Yes.
Kevin Murphy.
Yes.
Joey Engel. Brandon Swoboda.
Yes.
Barry Harris.
Yes.
Ben Lewis.
Yes.
Jeff Safar.
Thanks, Joe. Good luck. Next on the agenda is planned unit development 2206 Womack mixed use amendment to the approved PUD. It is zone C2, just over 9 acres, 300 dwelling units. The applicant here to give us an overview of what they're requesting.
Yeah, yes, I have two hands raised. They are both on Zoom. All right, Yara?
Hi, yeah, this is Kira Gilmore. Oh, sorry, my name on here, so it's my maiden name. I work for Moda Studio. I'm not sure who else is on the line, but I just wanted to quickly speak on what the changes that we're requesting. So we had the previous approval for 300 units. We are looking to increase that total to 330 units, not increasing any building size. With the increase, we knew we needed to increase parking, so we've increased the parking 24 additional spots to bring it to 418.
Diane, do you want to walk us through the exact changes? So this is the one that's at the top of the hill, correct?
Yeah, it's at Womack and Centerton Boulevard.
To Superior Storage.
Yeah, on the other side of the street. From
It's
Superior Storage.
across Womack from Centerton Retail. So Centerton Retail, your mouse, is like right here. Where Centerton Retail is. They do have shared access between that. As was mentioned, y'all did approve this PUD on January 3rd, 2023 for the mixed use development. They were capped at 300 units, but they would like to request for up to an additional 30. They're not changing anything with the footprint of the buildings. Basically, what they want to do is have the option to have, say, more studio apartments than one bedroom. Or, you know, more one bedrooms than two bedrooms. So they can have a different mix within the footprint that they already have there. So that would increase the units per acre from 33 to 36. Again, structure's not changing. And they are going to be providing the additional 24 parking spaces to cover those additional units. You guys did approve their parking calculations at the previous with the planned unit development, which are shown right here for the commercial. They're doing 250 square feet is one parking space per every 250 square feet is 60, multifamily 1.4 per unit or 62. Again, they are going to have, you know, probably a reasonable amount that are going to be either studio or one bedroom. And doing the shared parking, so that would be a total of 418 parking spaces for the development.
Should be more than 24 increased parking. We're doing 30 units, 1.4 per unit with the shared use. That's 34 parking.
Not
spaces.
with, you see, they have their
80% of that.
With the calcs, yeah, the 330 or the 30 new.
They had extra.
Yeah, so maybe this 24 is because they had extra before.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not at the total minimum, but it's not.
Okay.
And they've done this before and they said this is typical. This is what has worked for previous developments that they've done as far as their parking ratio. I like that ratio was approved with the.
Match the same ratio that was approved.
That's why there's the additional 24, because they have additional units.
So essentially, the change is just how they want to break up, build inside.
The layout, the interior layout.
Correct. But since the PUD did state 300 units, that's why they're coming for the amendment, because they want up to 330. They might still just do the 300. They might go, okay, no, that's good. They might do less, or they might do up to that 30 more. So of course, you know, with their request for potentially the additional ones, they are also increasing the parking as necessary.
So all the other percentages are the same then as far as green space and.
I'm not positive. I'm trying to figure out,
Green space couldn't be the thing.
They could, you have to get it, you have to get the additional parking from somewhere.
Where would that parking go?
Where's it come from? Are they reducing commercial parking? Where's it coming from? I guess, my question.
Okay, all right, I'm not even gonna try to torture saying your name, Casper?
Hello to the commission. My name is Casper Lestowicki. I'm here with Modus Studio along with my colleague Kira, who just spoke a minute ago. I can answer some of those questions that you guys have been raising. So the greater unit count comes from an increased efficiency within the building form. So we've just internally, as we've been developing this project on behalf of our clients, we've just found some efficiency in corridors and in sort of some secondary mechanical spaces and things like this, which has allowed us to potentially provide more units to our clients, which is of course desirable for them, and increases the efficiency of our building. With respect to the parking and the open space, I believe, and the commission may correct me if I'm wrong, that the requirement for open green space was something like 25%, I believe. And I know that this proposal that we had previously been approved for had a significantly higher percentage. I think it was something at like 35%. So again, the parking increase of those extra 24 spaces, again, it comes from a little bit more efficiency in how we're laying out the parking, in getting some of those planting islands just a little bit tighter and a little bit more efficient. Again, working the project to clear things up, but the green space remains within the limits requested for by the city and by the PUD application process.
So are you losing islands in the parking? Because I'm counting only, where you could add maybe 6 based on your previous layout.
A portion of it was a change in the mix between a compact spaces and regular spaces. So there's a couple more compact spaces there, which allows you to just shrink some of these runs of parking. Again, just some of these little efficiencies across such a large site do allow you to increase that parking count.
I don't know if you can see what we're seeing on the screen, but I don't know if the drawing that we have in front of us is the proposed with the new parking added, or if this was the one that was approved previously.
What was that? I'm sorry, I was trying to answer.
Is this the new proposed?
No, I did not receive a drawing of the new proposal. This was the one from the previous. So I don't know where they're parking, additional parking spaces.
So if
Will
you
reside.
could describe to us, knowing that we're looking at the old design, what portion or part of the property are you changing to get the additional parking, I guess is our question, since we don't have a rendering.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. In the plan southeast portion, there's a kind of area where you enter on the south side in that curb cut. This portion directly to the west of that, where it's a kind of loop, that loop has been reworked to be just slightly more efficient. There's a couple more parking spaces there. On this area, this part of the drive that's parallel to Womack Road, some of those have just been tightened up, particularly north on the northeast corner. And I believe part of the road on the northwest side as well, where it says aerial apparatus, some of that has also been tightened up, with some of those spaces having been converted to compact.
Okay, thank you. But you don't have the percentage of what the green space goes to at your disposal right now?
Not at the moment, but we certainly are able to send that to you, and as soon as possible. I'm sorry, I do not have it in front of me at the moment with respect to the green space. Though I do recall that the green space numbers were significantly above the required 25% previously.
Yeah, we will need that number back to the Diane and the city so that we have that number.
What was that question? I'm sorry.
We need them to provide that back, even if we do approve this evening.
Oh, yeah, of course, we would relook
We
at
need
it.
to understand what that is.
I'd like to know how many of the spaces are actually compact and how many are regular.
Do you have that number?
If you give me one moment, I'll be able to find that for you.
That whole road right there, that whole road right there looks. We have no stipulation that accounts for any compact. We just have a straight minimum parking space of. I think it's 9 by 19 or 9 by
19.
18, something like that. We don't account for any compact.
I think it was just a question. I mean,
It's a PUD though.
yeah.
That's something that else has to vary that. My truck would take 4 of those compact.
Yeah,
There are not a lot of car drivers. There are not a lot of car drivers.
In our earlier discussion, didn't we have concerns about the amount of, or maybe the lack of parking for the commercial piece?
And then the remoteness of it, like the commercial, you have to walk. Or you
Now
have to
we're-
park and walk.
Now we're taking, we're not really adding, we're just pushing them together.
What, Ben?
More efficient.
Better more the location of the parking in relation to the commercial.
Yeah, that doesn't change. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, if they fill it with compact closer to the commercial, then.
With this long parking, and that's a fire lane and not another access along the frontage of 102. What happens if multiple cars go down and there's no parking? You have to back all the way out?
Sure, it'll be blocked off.
oh, I see what you're
What'd you say,
saying.
Lorraine?
Might be kind of late.
Say that again, Lorraine? Oh, ball, you don't have access off of Centerton Boulevard. Those ballers are blocks. And I can tell you what happens to those in about a month.
That's
4 cars will hit them and they will come out. I mean, I've seen it like 3 or 4 times in Bentonville. There's bollards. See those red dots at the very top middle of the screen? Yes. Those are removable bollards for fire truck, fire access. So people are gonna see the drive cut, turn in and slam into it at night.
But I think you raise a good point there, driving down, where's the turnaround when you realize there's no parking?
I mean, you have to be able to go through the loop. Still haven't received any kind of plans for this at this time.
Yeah. This fire, let's say, okay, 24 more spots. Does that matter at all?
Yeah, I
The
don't-
building does, because the
I don't
building
think-
doesn't change, but
I don't think fire cares about that.
As long as they can get their truck down, it's got a big bumper on the front.
They'll take the bollards down.
where's fire hydrant? Is there?
They don't show hydrants yet, but they'll have to be every 300 feet in this. The buildings will be sprinklered. And then we'll have access to remove those bollards and get in and out of that. The orange area that you see, that's actually drivable surface for us. It's not made public. It'll actually be, you can't drive on it. We will be able to have access to move and get access to that. That gets us our mobility in and around the site.
There's no turnaround for commercial driving.
Correct.
Now, Casper, will there be
No, there's not.
turnaround where people, do you hear what they brought up about, if you're driving through here and there's no parking, how do they turn around?
Yes, our expectation is that the north side of that orange sector where it says Muse Street, our expectation is that that will actually be drivable, so you can make a full loop and a full connection there.
Okay.
Well, if that's drivable, does that interfere with fire access? If that's commercial now.
No, that's what I'm saying. You can't park on it. It'll be maintained as open space, so that way we can get through there. And if I'm understanding him correctly, they're gonna make it, I thought it was gonna be blocked off like a decorative area like around Crystal Bridges.
I think this shows like a boardwalk. Yeah.
There's all kinds of fire access. They can get their trucks in and around it, but you would never realize that. That was my understanding, but if they're gonna leave it to where we can just regular commercial traffic can drive around, there's no issues with that for me.
That was like boardwalk. I think it's just fancy.
It's a different material.
So let me bring us back to what we need to consider this evening. The fact they're gonna add 24 parking spots and they're requesting up to an additional 30 units. Are there any other concerns in regards to the requested change? Understand we compact, non-compact. I drive a large truck. I get it. I think up to, I mean,
Can we get the number of compact?
Yeah, for the record, at the moment, what we're showing is 12 compact spots. I think the previous scheme that we submitted originally, I think only had 5. So it's really a slight increase.
Okay, thank
And
you.
as a percentage of the entire total, it's really negligible.
Okay, thanks. We thought it was like a large number. That's the reason we wanted to.
Like 24.
Yeah,
All right,
we are talking about a 10% increase in unit.
up to, I mean, we don't know that exact. I mean, understand.
Yeah, they were giving them some. They would just like some wiggle room from the 300.
Right, and of course, a number of issues that the commission's raising right now will of course be sort of worked out and sort of discussed during the building permit application itself.
Will any part of the commercial building designation be changed to residential?
No, ma'am.
Any additional concerns or comments from any of the commissioners? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion for the request for up to an additional 30 units, and that will also include an additional 24 parking spaces for PUD 2206.
I'll motion to approve PUD 2206 Womack mixed use amendment to approved PUD.
John, second. Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Thank you, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
Sorry for butchering both of y'all's names.
All right, next on the agenda is conditional use 2212 greenhouse mini storage. Amendment to the conditional use. It's at 301 Greenhouse Road. It is zoned C2 and it's 5 acres. Is the applicant here to give us an overview of what they're requesting? You want us to bring a microphone? Would it be easier? Serious question. Yep, we'll bring one. What was your name? Sorry. Thank
You have full storage on board the east side and the west. The next one, the building, the west side and the east side, so that the open parking there. Block up. And you're not going to keep it out. We're especially the issue with putting the fence between the retail and the parking area. The west, the east side, that and also add the fence on the back side. If you have a current thing there.
So you're keeping the retail.
That's exactly.
So what's right there is the west side. That's where they had RV storage in the back before. So we required an 8-foot fence.
This is the west.
That's the west side there. Yep.
So this needs to be, okay.
South is west, plan south is west.
So this is north.
Bottom is the west side.
This is north,
There you go.
north to the left.
In.
I know, yeah.
It took me a while to figure out where we were too. And that's, I know. One, it was a straight stipulation before when they had the RV storage, we had a higher fence requirement.
But with a building there,
reduce it to 6, right?
6 foot. Where's the transition? It's been a second since I looked at it. Where's the transition from the retail to? That, I don't think we show it. It's not shown right here.
It's not shown with this whole thing, because that's wasn't part of the,
But it's part of this
Part of
request.
this.
it's not part of this request, I guess it's.
Definitely, I mean, they want to eliminate the landscaping.
Landscaping. But I think one of those showed how the first building is now broken down. So the reason they don't want to do that landscape buffer that we talked about the first time is because it's no longer, it's office space now. So it's not just a flat building. They're gonna have offices. So one of those should have a little bit layout.
There.
The brown area on the right side of the work is your office, so where you, the west side of it.
Okay, now you're gonna walk us through.
So property was recently rezoned from A1 to C2, and then a conditional use was approved on January 17th, 2023. It's designated as medium high density residential and commercial with the budding watercolors to the north and Kimmel Ridge duplexes to the west. The applicant is requesting an amendment to their previously approved conditional use to include the removal of the condition to have a landscape buffer between phases 1 and 2 of the development. And then removal of the condition to have an 8-foot fence between the storage and Kimmel Ridge Phase 2. And then the staff findings, the amended conditions, just because they no longer have that outdoor storage, the 8-foot fence isn't really necessary. For screening, I think it would be helpful if we just go over what your landscaping expectations were, because it abuts watercolors, Kimmel Ridge Phase 2, and then there's room for development on corrections. So south side, thank you. So they, in some of their more recent plans, they had trees along ponds, but in the berm. We need clarification on where you guys want trees. The development. And then that fencing was the other.
Before there was the stipulation that because they're going to do all of the storage units first. You want landscaping at the phase 1, phase 2
Fine.
property line, which that is right now at the.
At the back of the building.
Back of building 1.
That's actually, yeah, so all the parking on the east of building 1 plus the access would be included. And then they want to leave all that to be phase 2, that commercial in the front. So you'd be putting trees where those parking.
It looks like there's a green space strip.
There's a strip, there's a bump out there, between the building and the parking.
Or is that just sidewalk?
Sidewalk.
Sidewalk.
So they're gonna access the building from the front.
Right.
There'll be man doors and. Elevation of it.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah, I got you. Can we go back to the overall? Yeah. So on that, I got a couple questions. What's keeping your setback off of Kimmel? Where it's at? Why is the building where it's at and not closer to Kimmel?
Kimmel is like 600 feet south.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm turned around.
North is up now.
North is up now.
Yeah.
What that be with?
I'm sorry, not Kimmel. I meant greenhouse. My bad. Greenhouse.
Greenhouse, east.
That's greenhouse. So they have a large setback from greenhouse. They're actually put the parking in front of it.
I understand, but why can't we shift that east, the building, the parking, shift that east 7 feet and pick up some?
To allow for green space behind building 1. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we need that for the road improvements.
Is that right away? I don't see it right away, so I can't really see where we're at here.
Well,
That's a setback line.
yeah, the Greenhouse Road.
That looks like the property line right there.
This is
That's sidewalk.
There's this,
The right of way is right behind the sidewalk.
this side, right, this side, the right of way is on the back side of the sidewalk.
I think waiving the landscape requirement is a bad idea. I think it can be rearranged. I don't know that it's a solid like hedge now, but yeah, I think we can work something in the green space that they have shown. They have parking islands over there to the east of building 1.
What are you saying to, you like to be more landscaping?
Does this proposal, do they meet the minimum
They don't show any landscaping.
green space or requirement that is needed for this?
This isn't a.
Is, so I guess I'm sorry, I need to catch up for a second here. Cause I do remember it, it has been a little bit, we had a long conversation about this. Wanting to put that barrier between that front building and building 1, which at that time was gonna be storage unit with, wasn't there like trash or something?
Right, so originally that first building, you accessed from the back side.
You say first building, that's the building closest to greenhouse? Yeah.
The first storage building, so not the blacked out one in that little picture.
Which is currently building 1.
So that blacked out building, retail building, that's phase 2, so we're not really talking about that one, we're talking building right behind it, that's really long. That's what we refer to as building 1, building 1 of the storage. But originally in that first, the one that you guys saw, that building, everything accessed from the back side of it. And then the front side was completely flat. So we wanted landscaping along that to create a buffer, because that's not very cute to look at from the house. But now
I still don't think that's very cute to look at.
So it's remaining storage units, but we're gonna access it from the front.
it's office.
Oh, it's office.
This would be the front,
Yeah.
building 1, and this would be the back building.
Yeah, we'd still recommend that we require landscaping. I just don't think it needs to be as hefty as we were originally said in that conditional use.
Yeah, I think we're gonna need some in front of your office space right here too.
The intent was until that retail or commercial was built, there would be something hiding the shielded
Or it would be all sheet metal.
screen.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
will,
Or,
this still will be a metal building.
but yeah.
Yeah, it's still a metal building and on the first iteration, it was office building, but we were.
It was
On
like.
the first
RV
iteration, it was gonna be open on the backside without all the doors. It's gonna be RV storage.
RV storage, right, but now it's becoming office space.
Office space with like a bay area, if I.
Is that
Yeah.
an issue? That it went-
It's a change of use on a conditional use. And we're changing a conditional use and not having a public hearing. Is that a thing?
Yeah,
Problematic.
yeah,
It sounds like it, yeah.
absolutely.
If this,
I'm sorry, that's why I was,
that office,
because we're talking about more than just landscaping here. We're talking about the change of purpose of that building that we approved initially. Right, the use of that.
Other approved use in that zone, though.
Correct.
Storage requires a conditional use. Any office space that is already an approved use in there. It's shrinking the conditional use part of this.
Yeah, the conditional part is only the storage part. They're allowed office space, by right?
Brian, could you consider that like down zoning on a leasing request? The screening would still be required that you required last time. That's why they want to change it. Right.
So bear with me then, so I'm assuming it'd be similar to like my office, is that correct?
yes,
Okay.
but with the storage area.
Right, okay. Which, and that's allowed, the strip center in the front, so they're just changing the back. And getting rid of where you can put RVs and put another thing in there.
Yeah.
So it's really not changing
They're
They're reducing the part that was conditional.
They're changing the use of it.
But the
It was
use-
initially going to be changed, it was gonna, so this, I'm sorry,
And I guess that's my question. I'm trying to figure
The
out.
use would be allowed
Right, it's
in
changing.
that zone.
And what they're changing to is already allowed, so they don't have to.
So the portion of the conditional use is just being reduced.
Shrinking.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're okay with that. Okay.
And this would be what they would look like inside. With, you know, your regular door, restrooms, and then a bay in the back. And then this would just be a bigger one.
I think that's great. I mean, I'm not opposed to us having more office space there and people being able to access that. That's awesome. I
I
just
just think at the end of the day, you're still looking at a metal building, no matter what you're using it for, you're still looking at a metal building.
that part doesn't change. Yeah.
So
Now, I will say, if there are uses that come in here and they end up doing manufacturing or something, then
yeah,
we've got
That's not an approved use.
not, yeah.
But they have to come here for that.
If they're found,
It's manufacturing.
somebody finds them. But
So are we in agreement? We still need some sort of landscaping on the east side of building one?
Yes.
yeah, I don't think we get away from that just because it doesn't change the aesthetics at all, just because we change the use.
can y'all work on some trees or something on the east side in the front of that building?
As far as the area offices, they're very good.
Yes.
We plan here on the above house. Road. They're on those.
Yeah, we need some trees to screen that. Just flat metal building right there. On the east side of building one.
You usually can just go point. I gotta get.
So-
I can do it if you don't want to.
So instead of the bump outs just being shrubs, we would like some trees or something that's taller in part of the building versus a
Probably
small shrub.
Because this was phase one, the regardless of screening along that line between phase one and phase two. And because of the way they are tentatively laying out now with parking, they're trying to not do that, because it's not gonna be just gonna look at some access doors, but. And they also want to have that lane there to use for parking, because they want to put trees in, putting trees or screening here. Preliminary, they're gonna have issues with that.
No.
Here.
Go
It's building.
right there,
West, right there.
right there.
That's where we want trees, up and down building one.
Yes.
Because if I understood you, Bill, you were saying you were gonna put shrubs. And we would like to have a tree.
And more than three.
Yes.
More than three.
You're gonna need to rework the site plan to find some extra room to get some green space in front of that building. So you can probably plant some trees there. That's what it's gonna come down to.
Is there a significant number, square feet, or anything like that we can go by?
How long is it?
Is there a percentage of parking that he, because this is speaking office, is there a percentage of parking that he has to have out front?
Freedom environment is just.
There wouldn't parking there.
I think there was. Yeah.
I think the parking was.
I mean, I'm just thinking,
Was based on the retail.
I was just thinking out loud, you know,
Yeah.
instead of so much parking, can we put trees, a couple of those spaces? I mean, does he have to have that much parking?
There's two spots in between each door.
Keep going.
Yeah.
To the left.
Well, that's the back of the building.
Oh, is that the back?
Is that the back or the front?
The door's the front.
To the front.
Bay in the back.
Yeah, the top is the front.
So can we go to the left one?
It's 240 or 274.
I count 7 or 8 spots there. We could probably get some trees in. In between your doors, things like that.
Well, you could also do the parking on the other side.
Yeah, but he's not gonna build that right now, right?
Alternate the islands.
Good,
Might be an option.
good.
I guess my question earlier though was, because I can't remember what it looked like before, but it was a building and we had and there was access like there is now, but was there parking in front of it?
It wasn't like.
So now there is parking in front of it, and that was my question was, are the number of spaces there for use for those office spaces, is that meet the requirements that you guys have? Is it too much, too little? I'm just thinking for his sake. That creates more green space, maybe takes away parking spaces.
You're saying the parking that's added, does that accommodate the office spaces that?
That's what I'm asking.
The office, now they require parking, they didn't for storage. I believe it met the parking requirements by switching, but I don't have that.
And if it meets the parking requirements, and now we're asking them to take some of those parking requirements and turn it into green space, does it still meet parking requirements for office space?
Well, I don't think we necessarily have to turn some parking spots into green.
No, but I mean, there has to be some kind of layout there. That was just.
Yeah, that's what I-
That was that we.
I'm trying to help.
Yeah.
Sure. And be able to keep what he wants to do and us meet our.
And some of that could be planting, like you said, alternating islands or planting trees on the back of that, not building one, but what future retail there temporarily.
All right.
I'm all good with the 6-foot fence. I can Ridge phase 2 instead of 8-foot, because it's no longer outdoor storage.
What's the land use to the west?
It's duplex.
Is there landscaping back there?
Six
Well,
foot
there's,
fence.
but they still show landscape.
There was landscaping.
That's what I thought.
You still prefer behind that building.
Yeah, we can drop 2 feet on the fence, I think.
Hang on, let me get to the right.
Yeah, so you're getting a
This is
building,
where-
6-foot fence instead of
This is
8-foot
the
fence and RVs.
What are we doing? Why are we doing the 8 foot? I mean, I'm sorry, it takes me just a little
Okay.
bit.
So originally they had that back area along Kimmel Ridge phase 2, which is the south of this page. They had outdoor storage proposed for like outdoor like RVs and stuff like that. So we decided that an 8-foot fence would be better to screen that outdoor, but they're no longer doing outdoor storage back there.
Okay.
They want to do a 6-foot fence instead, which is generally standard.
Thank you. Thank you. One more second, explain.
So it actually would look better to have a building and a 6-foot fence than an 8-foot fence and RVs and stuff, yeah.
They're still proposing that
Still have-
line of.
Kind of environment.
Turn at the right direction.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Oh, there was one about the. Is it 8-foot fence on the north side too?
We asked for an 8-foot fence on the north
I
side.
don't think we did there.
It was just on that backside.
Yeah, it was just along Kimmel. Trees along on the south side. They did propose a 6-foot fence, right, along there, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah, you can see it's labeled there on the south side.
yes.
There's also some question on the road alignment too, right?
We did work on that, that's being handled. But their original landscaping for their development showed a bunch of trees down there, but they ended up being in the burn, and Alan said no to trees in the burn. I don't know.
So I told them to put them in the bottom.
They want to know if they can put it, I think, put the south property line off the property.
And then it gets back to the road.
Well, I mean, I don't know that the road will be right along through there, but then they need to include that as part of this development if they do that.
Originally, I think you guys just specifically asked for trees right there, but then they ended up moving a pond to right there, so.
Right. Well, I mean, is that part of the request?
Part of their request was to not have to put trees right there, yeah.
Meaning those 4 on the north side or
Yes.
south, that green line? No.
Is it chain link or is it? Okay.
It said privacy fence.
Yeah.
It should be a sick board fence, right?
Losing all the landscaping.
Yeah.
Again, that's the problem with storage units. It seems like we start out with something and then it gets whittled away. With the,
Do we, I feel like we don't have all the plans here, but what sort of landscaping was along greenhouse and the northern property line?
I believe there was still a line of trees along where watercolors is. Then, yeah, and then there was street trees along greenhouse.
Maybe we can, how tall is the berm? 4 feet, 5 feet? Is it a berm or a pond?
It's the berm for the pond.
I got you.
That's where, you know, you don't want to put a tree in the middle of that because you'll end up getting piping through it, holding water.
What if we do some, smaller like decorative stuff there?
It's gonna be behind that 6-foot privacy fence.
Where's the fence?
It's on the property line.
Yeah, it's right against the pond.
Where's the road going? South of the pond?
Well, it may be a little more south of the pond. It's gonna have to sweep down and connect to the west.
The road it ties to is another 330 feet south of that location.
Is there not room to plant in between the right of way and the berm? On the south side?
Yeah, there's room on the south side. They're not doing anything on the south side right now.
You'd have to go south on the back property.
That black dash solid line is a right of way line, right?
No.
No. Dash line.
That's line. It's the right of way line, right?
Yeah, that's the right of way. It's behind the sidewalk. Yeah. So they can put them between the south side of the pond and the right of way.
Not right away, because they're not dedicating right away back there.
Okay, their property line.
The property line, that might be, I think the solid black is actually the property line.
Yeah.
So in order to put trees on the south side, they'd have to be off property.
Okay, how about we just redistribute them on site somewhere?
They own that property, they can make it a landscape easement, but worry would be they'd lose it if they ever develop that south property as well.
Even if it's a landscape easement?
We would be responsible.
Just tear the landscape down whenever.
I think reallocation is probably the best thing to do. Yeah.
Let's figure it out.
Any additional comments? Questions? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion for the conditional use 2212 with greenhouse mini storage with the amendment to their conditional use as requested.
As requested, or you're not getting rid of the screening.
And comments, sorry, the comments that would be in conjunction with that.
This is John, I motion to approve conditional use 2212 greenhouse mini storage amendment to the conditional use. Per staff findings and comments regarding screening.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there anyone that's opposed? Thank you. Good luck. All right. Next on the agenda is other business and the PUD code amendment open space discussion.
Before she started, that ain't good.
Okay.
Want to do it tonight or you?
Well, here's an option. We could do tonight, or we could set up a work session and go through. As we start going through just the open space, there's some in the whole PUD area that we'd like to recommend. Or we could go through them.
We never do anything.
We won't get past the. It's 2 AM. We've only got a few.
Oh, would you all be interested in a work session?
What's the next agenda look like? I didn't look at it today.
Well, it's actually pretty light right now.
Items,
Yeah, those are gonna be.
subdivision and development, the addenda closes for that agenda this Friday. So if they aren't ready by then, those two, they might get.
4 or 3?
There's two, there's a development and a subdivision, and then the two tabled items.
Storage World and Featherston Village West.
Featherston Village West is not.
So let's try to do them at the next meeting if it stays light.
Okay.
Sure.
Y'all sent this to us, right? We can.
Is it updated or?
An update with what you have there? Or you all have a full copy, right?
I did, yeah.
Just me.
I don't.
Dropped in the Dropbox too.
Okay. It's in a Dropbox.
Okay, that's in the presentation. So it has, it's the whole section of the PUD, and then it has comments that staff has made, and then we'd really like, if you guys have anything you want us into, what other cities do, or comments, so that we can put that out there.
I haven't looked at all of your comments, but my feelings on the open space are similar to what we saw tonight, is the 100-foot easement does not count 1-to-1 for green space. That is not fair. That shouldn't be factored in. Now, it should count for something, but not a 1-to-1 in my opinion.
We'll plan on next time. I would recommend sending us a reminder with an attachment if you can. And then we can plan on next meeting. The next council meeting is April 11th. Our next planning commission meeting is the 18th. Please let us know if you cannot attend.
I cannot attend.
Planning on your part. I scheduled my vacation between the meetings.
I will miss the second plan commission meeting in April, May, and June.
All right.
Sounds like a reasons.
If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Anybody opposed?
I have no idea.
Thank you, guys.
Devin, I'm pretty sure.
I so moved for your last meeting.
I got a question. Brian,
Thanks first.
I got a question for you before you leave.
And I've got, yeah, because I've got to talk to some folks, so that's fine.